in the Sharm el-Sheikh summit and then told me to retreat like a little boy to the corner. It was a projection of such leadership. And the British people voted for a strong leader, and I think I conveyed that.
Accusations made against you about what you were like in your school days at Dulwich. How have you responded to those accusations?
Oh, well, they're not true. They're not true at all. Isn't it funny that people would bring something up from so many decades ago? At the end of the day, what I did when I was younger, I deny it all, by the way, but what I did, I never said anything nastily. I remember one chap, and he wrote me an email recently. He said, "You used to call me overweight." And I did. But I did it to do him a favour. And you know what? He said in the end, he couldn't get a job because he lost so much weight and they stuck him in a mental asylum.
Oh, well, first of all, that's a stupid question, isn't it? You're a stupid guy, aren't you? You're beautiful, by the way. You're a beautiful guy. You're a beautiful woman, excuse me. But I will say that's a stupid, dumb question because it's been one of the most unbelievable... probably the best year that anybody's ever seen, even though we're in January. You know that. You know she knows that. She loves this. She absolutely loves it. But, yeah, it's going to be so much better, and we're going to do a lot more invasion.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GBNews in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, 9:30 on Thursday the 22nd of January, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pierce and Miriam Cates.
Well, is it a done deal? President Trump backs down on his tariff threats to Britain and claims a deal to take over Greenland is complete. Although he did have this message for Europe.
And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps.
Do you remember the US President's new organisation to stop the war in the Middle East?
To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it.
Well, any moment now, we are expecting President Trump to update us on his Board of Peace as more countries sign up to end global conflict. However, one of the countries not attending this will be Britain, who has snubbed the plan over the involvement of Vladimir Putin. Also, these two will be reunited later.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
Trump will meet the Ukrainian President Zelensky at Davos today. He claims a deal on ending the war in Ukraine is reasonably close.
And sticking with Davos, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage will join us from there to discuss the conference. Don't miss it.
Fascinating vote in the House of Lords last night. They overwhelmingly backed a ban on under-16s using social media, piling on the pressure for the Prime Minister to do another U-turn and bring in Australian-style restrictions.
And a shocking new report finds that 1 in 4 children are starting reception at school not toilet trained. So how do we reverse this school readiness crisis?
And the number of people cheating on their driving tests has rocketed by almost 50% last year as hopeful drivers turn to things like Bluetooth headsets and impersonators to get them through the test.
And furious farmers are protesting this morning, taking direct action against what they call a broken supply chain.
We're here at the Lidl distribution centre in Doncaster, where farmers have parked their tractors right outside the entrance, meaning that no lorries can get in or out. There's also similar protests being held this morning in Peterborough and Luton.
So, Miriam, that's the second time farmers have taken what I would call direct action, intended to impact the food supply chain.
Yeah.
Before that, they were coming to Parliament Square and town centres across the country. So they're massively ramping up their action.
And initially they did say they didn't want to stop people from buying food in supermarkets, but they've obviously become so desperate at the lack of action. And we've spoken about this before, haven't we? The tiny amount of money that supermarkets give them for a litre of milk or for their sheep's fleece. I mean, it is just shocking. There used to be minimum pricing. No longer does that exist. The supermarkets have all the power.
So, as ever, we know what you think. Send your views. Are you supporting those farmers? Post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you. The top stories. Britain will not sign up to Donald Trump's Board of Peace today amid concerns about Russian involvement in the plan. Yvette Cooper said the UK would discuss with the allies the different supportive role it could play in the Gaza peace process as she faced questions about the prospect of joining the group. President Donald Trump says the US is exploring a potential deal on Greenland after talks with NATO as he backed off threats to tariff European allies that had opposed his plans for America to acquire the island. The Duke of Sussex will return to the High Court today to support fellow claimants in their legal action against the publisher of the Daily Mail. Prince Harry gave evidence yesterday during which he said Associated Newspapers Limited made his wife Meghan's life an absolute misery. A&L denies all allegations. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we are expecting to hear from President Trump quite shortly at Davos. He's still there, and this is about the Peace Commission he's established, which Britain is pointedly snubbing, so is France, by the way. But he does say he struck a deal on Greenland after talks with the head of NATO, and the threat of tariffs on Britain and Europe has gone for now.
Although he has lashed out again at France and threatens 200% tariffs on wine. I don't think that will happen, but nevertheless, he's definitely taken against Emmanuel Macron after him being a little bit more vocal on his opposition.
Macron led the plan for what they called the big bazooka approach on the EU to impose tariffs of 93% tariffs or something, or 93% rise in tariffs, which didn't happen, pointedly not supported by the British Prime Minister, who I have to say, I'm very critical of him normally. I think yet again, he's probably got us out of a scrape.
Well, he definitely tried to dial down the rhetoric over Greenland, making it clear that it wasn't acceptable for Trump to claim that he was going to use force, but also very much resisting any kind of retaliatory tariffs like Macron was suggesting.
I'm not sure it's completely 100% right that America gave Greenland away after the war, I think.
No, that was not true. They took kind of responsibility for it during the war, but that was about it.
It was like just because of the war. Now, the Secretary-General of NATO, Mark Rutte, who is a former European Prime Minister, of course, has insisted the sovereignty of Greenland is not a discussion point. And while speaking at Davos, he went on to lay out his thoughts on Europe, and Donald Trump, and did not hold back.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody and say I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way. That's in a very negative way.
And very shortly, we are expecting Trump to provide an update on his Board of Peace, which, of course, is his idea for governing Gaza post the peace deal that he negotiated in the autumn. But meanwhile, We've learned something else this morning.
Of course, it has Vladimir Putin on it.
It does, and the president of Belarus,
which is why the
Turkey
British Prime Minister won't have anything to do with it.
Absolutely.
But Tony Blair's going on it. That great peace lover.
Well, he knows something about the Middle East.
Yeah, but he calls the biggest war in the Middle East.
Well, quite possibly. Well,
not?
the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, has snubbed Donald Trump's invitation to join that Board of Peace due to concerns about the involvement of the Russians and the Belarusians. And we do have in the studio now US political commentator Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining. Trump knows how to cause a headline. The foreign policy interventions that he's been involved in since he became president are absolutely extraordinary. But in the last week, people have started to ask, is there method to this madness, or is it just madness?
There's absolutely a method to the madness. As a matter of fact, I think it's the Kobayashi letter has put forth exactly what step we were at. I think we're at step 8 right now. A couple of days ago was step 6, where Trump does this, where he says he wants something, right? And then he ratchets it up and says, I'm going to use tariffs, which we know he uses as a negotiating tool. The media, other people freak out. The markets crash. Somebody then has something more of a diplomatic discussion. Things get walked back. The people who said, oh, we'll never play ball with these tariffs or whatever, end up playing ball. Things calm down and they get done. So yeah, what he throws a grenade into the room and sees what happens. And then, you know, we saw this with Ukraine and Russia, right? For 3.5 years before President Trump came back into office, you couldn't even discuss the word peace. You know, you'd be called a Putin sympathizer if you did that. And then he put pressure on people saying the US is going to back up. And then Europe scrambled around and got more involved. So that's the exact same thing that was happening in Greenland. There was never a chance that there was going to be military invasion of Greenland. But I do think that where we're going to end up, and the details are yet to be decided, is that it'll look something just short of the U.S. not buying Greenland, but we will have full control over our military there.
In a sense, though, Jennifer, didn't you think he had that option already, in the sense there is a base there which he could increase the American military numbers there, and also in the past there were 17 military bases on Greenland. He could simply have done that again within current law. Did he really need to cause this great showdown?
He did, actually. Right. And the reason why is, if you look at the details, the United States needed basically approval from Denmark and Greenland and a lot of sort of other bureaucracy to increase troops there, to make any movements there. In addition, they needed approval in order, I believe, to mine for uranium, which, let's be honest, these minerals are an important part, as well as just the national security. And I think there was some moratorium on drilling for oil and gas. So while we did have something, we didn't have carte blanche, which is what he wants.
Jennifer, I take your point about the tactics that Trump uses, and that they are consistent. He throws the grenade, he waits for it to settle, he eventually gets what he wants. And, it seems to be a relatively successful, if unorthodox, tactic. But do you think he's gone a bit far this time? And there are two things that make me think that. First of all, publishing private messages from other world leaders. If you want to make a deal, you need to be trusted. And I think he will have lost a lot of trust now with those leaders who now think they have no back channel, they can't do anything in private, they've lost that kind of negotiating aspect. And then the other thing is that this kind of idea that Trump almost now doesn't think he needs any allies, and that Europeans have no leverage over Americans. They've certainly got all the power militarily. But Europeans hold a lot of American debt, and we've got even the Telegraph now writing op-eds saying we should start selling it off and show them who's boss. Has he pushed the Europeans too far?
Yeah, and you bring up a great point and a great word, which is the number one thing he cares about is leverage, right? Yeah. That's all he's going for. Trust, I think that went out the window a long time ago. I don't think any of these European leaders trust President Trump.
But they didn't expect their private messages to be published?
Probably not. No, probably not. But again, we're dealing with a completely unorthodox, quite unpresidential person. We've known this is who he is for 10 years. So whether it's his tone or the words he uses, or indeed publishing Macron's private messages. But, you know, has he gone too far? I think he would argue that he's helping Europe help itself, right? Europe has been incredibly weak, and we can't have a partnership and an alliance with somebody that doesn't exist if they don't get their military up to speed, and that's what he's trying to do.
He was never, surely, was he going to, I mean, you say invasion was never going to happen, the brinkmanship, because that would have been the destruction of NATO, and while he's quite rightly resentful and angry, most members of NATO don't pay their full whack. America's been picking up the bill for years. To have brought down NATO would have been a gift for Russia and China. An American president could never have signed up to that.
I don't think he wants to bring down NATO. I think he wants NATO to be the best they can be, and they haven't been. No. I'm sorry, but if you ask the average American, and remember he was elected on an America First agenda, we don't have free health care. You know, we don't have these long vacations. We don't have this welfare state, unless you're Somali. You know, we don't have this welfare state. So we look over at Europe and go, wow, you know, these guys have a lot of benefits. And meanwhile, the U.S. taxpayer is picking up the bill for their security and military. That's a problem.
What about Trump personally? He sounds old. He's sounding old enough.
I don't know if he will for the next 3 years, but a lot of the people that are picking up on this are the same people that happily ignored former President Biden being in the deep throes of dementia or whatever the poor man had, and had no problem with it. So it would be, you know, if what we're trying to say is the reason he acts this way is because he's old, I don't think that's the reason. I think that's his personality. And he is who he is. So it makes for great television. It makes things exciting, and I hope we all come out of it in good shape.
It's keeping us in a job.
Yeah, exactly.
You say that one of the motivations behind his strategy is to help Europe become strong again, to help us to realise that we need to invest in the military and to protect ourselves and not rely completely on America. But do you think he's actually risking doing the opposite, or at least losing Europe as an ally? Because we saw what happened in Canada. When Trump started making threats about taking over Canada, the Conservatives, who were on course to win the election, suddenly lost votes. We've got elections coming up in Hungary this spring. Viktor Orban, one of the first European leaders to support Trump. There could be a backlash in his own country now from Hungarians thinking, I'm not sure we want to be allied to this man. We could see that in Italy for Meloni. We could see that for Reform UK. Some of the patriotic European parties that were growing in strength, that did support Trump, could now experience a backlash as a result of what he's saying.
You know, you bring up a great point about Canada, and my Canadian friends who actually like Trump were calling me in the lead up to the election, being like, tell the guy to shut up. And start, you know, the 51st state joke was funny the first, I don't know, 5 times. But you could see Poilievre's numbers going down, so you're right. And I think the thing is, you know, Germany, the UK, France, you know, if the elections were today in any of those 3 countries, including this one, right-leaning populists would win. So no, I actually think it has the opposite effect. I think people want a part of that. And also, I need to apologize. I didn't answer your question on the EU and the debt. Scott Bessent, our Secretary of Treasury, made a very sort of harsh comment yesterday when he was asked about the European debt and did the Europeans really have financial tools that could hurt us? And he simply said no. Okay. So I don't think they're worried about that. I know Denmark said they're going to be selling some of the treasuries. It's $100 million. Quite frankly, it's a rounding error.
Yes, yeah.
And on Republicans, how is he with his base? Because it's all important, keeping the base happy. Is the Republican Party, is he still as popular? Is he riding high still or not?
Okay. That is so great that you asked that, because in the last couple of days, I looked up what are the actual polls. He has this shocked me, trust me. He has a 90% approval rating within his own party. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people identify as independents, and of course, there's Democrats. But for all of the infighting we read about with regards to America First versus the old school GOP neocons and that sort of, you know, infighting, he rates very, very highly in the 90% for Republican voters. So I guess nobody else has come up with a better answer, and the Democrats are in the toilet. So
but I said, where are they?
Well, I think it's sub 30% approval. Congress has a terrible approval rating. People are not happy in America, in a lot of countries, for example, with their leaders. But I think people think, okay, this is the best guy we got, and if we need him to come in and break things, which is what you're seeing, in Davos, definitely in that speech yesterday, he's just going to tear down these supranational organizations, build things from the top back up, and then I think people are hopeful that we get back to somebody that's perhaps a little more eloquent and presidential.
Jennifer, stay there for a minute. We'll come back to you. But we're now also joined by Catherine Forster, our chief political correspondent here in the studio. Let's move on to talking about this Gaza Peace Board that's going to be ratified this morning, we understand, in Davos. But there's one notable country that's not on the list, and that's Britain.
I think there's going to be quite a few notable countries not on the list,
too, I think.
actually, because largely because of Vladimir Putin, Russia has been invited to sit on this Board of Peace, despite the fact that, of course, it is engaged in a war with Ukraine, which it's invaded. So Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, has said that the British are not partaking because of, quote, concerns about President Putin being part of something which is talking about peace. Now, we're expecting this signing ceremony to happen in Davos very shortly. The White House is saying that 35 world leaders have committed so far to this Board of Peace. And although it's ostensibly about reconstruction of Gaza, the feeling is that Donald Trump would like to broaden this out much more, and it could eventually become some sort of rival to the United Nations.
Which he hates, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So some of the countries that we understand have committed: Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan. Let's see.
We're going back to Jennifer Ewing. We think we're just about to get Trump now.
Look, I know, call me a Putin sympathizer, but I absolutely think President Putin belongs on that board. I think it's a mistake of the UK to say just because of this man. Let's not forget that Putin and Russia in general were a huge part of the United Kingdom capital markets over the last 20 years. The real estate market, the financial markets, legal. He was involved. And I don't think that 3.5 years before President Trump came into office of not talking to Putin, of the Europeans in the UK and indeed Zelensky not talking to Putin, that didn't get us anywhere.
But there is, Trump's just walked onto stage, so we'll cut to him as
sure.
That's not live shot, actually. But, Catherine, sorry, Jennifer, there is an irony, isn't there, putting him on a peace board when Russia has invaded a sovereign nation?
Sure, and you know what? He has excellent relations in the Middle East. He has great relations with Iran, and he can be helpful. He also has resources, and I don't understand how we get to a peace when we're not talking to people. And this is not a friendship club. This is not a morality test. This is, I don't think half the countries would pass it if you did it that way. But, hearing that, one country doesn't want somebody else or somebody else doesn't want somebody else. No, the more the better. Diversity of thought. Let's just get in there and, see what happens.
Realpolitik.
Jennifer, we will be returning to this topic very shortly. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are 1.5 million Russian speakers in Israel, a lot of Russian Israeli Jewish people, so it makes sense to keep that iron in the fire.
Now, we're going to go back to Davos as soon as the President of the United States speaks, but first we're going to take you to Doncaster because farmers have set a surprise blockade of supermarket distribution centres this morning. We're going to talk to our GB News Yorkshire Humber reporter Anna Riley, who is there. Anna, morning. Tell us what's happening.
Good morning, Andrew and Miriam. Yes, there's a blockade here of tractors at the Lidl distribution centre in Doncaster. I'd say earlier this morning there was around 70 lorries that couldn't get in, and the ones that are trying to get out are also blocked as well. And also this is happening in Peterborough and in Luton. I'm joined now by Shane East. He's a mixed farmer, both arable and livestock. Why have you turned out today, Shane?
Just to show myself support for the farmers and just to try and get things moving, things going forward. I think it's just time that we supported British farmers and British produce over the whole board, not just farmers. I think all British engineering, everything all the way through that's British needs to be supported more.
You've brought your tractor here, you've come from Lincolnshire. How is it that you think the supermarkets could help you get a better price for your produce? Because how much do you really make, at the end of it all?
Well, it's about 0.5% profit on produce on farmers, what farmers get on the gate price. And the supermarkets make billions of pounds profit each year. and I don't think that's really fair. I think they should pass some of that on to the local farmers or farmers in the UK.
And why do you think it is so important that supermarkets promote British produce? What is it about British produce compared to imports?
British produce is far superior to foreign imports. We follow all the rules and regulations and what we can and can't use on crops, and livestock as well. Feeding livestock is another one. And this stuff, what they're just bringing from abroad, there's got no traceability to it, and they can just more or less do as they like with it.
How difficult is it working in this industry?
Very difficult, very difficult. We're up all days, in different days, different weathers. Sometimes we don't go to sleep very often, you know, because we've got livestock to tend to. And yes, it's just very difficult.
And we know that the government have done a U-turn on inheritance tax, but you want it scrapped completely.
Yeah, inheritance tax should be scrapped for everybody over the board. It's a very bad tax. It's a very unfair tax. People, generations have worked very hard to pass things on, and then at death, the government just takes a big proportion of it.
Thank you so much, Shane. Thank you for speaking to us. And we've been here all morning speaking to the farmers at this blockade with GB News. They've been exclusively invited by the farmers.
Thank you very much, Anna. And that's a huge ramping up of the
absolutely.
action. And even though the government has announced a U-turn on inheritance tax, raising the threshold where it will kick in from 1.5 million to 5 million for couples. The farmers say it's still not enough. It's going to wreck so many family-run farms.
And the supermarkets as well, driving prices down. I was just reading here that the supermarkets can pay as little as 29 pence a litre for milk, whereas the production cost is about 40p a litre. So lots of farmers are making a loss on their main business.
It's really bad.
Well, don't go away. We're keeping a close eye on Davos. Donald Trump about to speak to the conference to set up his new board of peace to govern Gaza. Don't go away. It's Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Another day with spells of rain across many parts of the UK. Showery, so on and off for many, but more prolonged for parts of eastern Scotland, where there is a warning running through till the end of Friday because of the risk of significant accumulation, 60 millimetres widely for eastern Scotland, 120 over the hills. There'll be some snow over the hill and mountain tops as well, increasingly so during the next couple of days as colder winds arrive. But for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We've got these outbreaks of rain on and off, heavy showers towards the south and southwest in particular. Some drier interludes, feeling unpleasant all in all as those showers set in. Very few places staying dry, although the far north of Scotland likely to be a little drier, albeit cloudy with a few light showers here and there. But it's across eastern Scotland where we do have that warning because of the risk of prolonged rain leading to flooding by the end of Friday. Heavy rain moving through Glasgow as well at this time of the day. The rain on and off further south across Scotland. Northern Ireland, England, Wales seeing showery outbreaks. Something a little drier and clearer in the south and southwest for a time before the next system moves in as we go through Thursday night and into the start of Friday. So the weather very unsettled at the moment with a lot of rain around, but the key points are that it's going to be particularly wet in the east of Scotland, that continuing into the start of Friday, and increasingly windy as we begin Friday to the south. That will keep things frost-free, of course, but an unpleasant start to the day, certainly a tricky commute across southern England and South Wales as the next band of persistent and at times heavy rain moves northwards, that pushing into the Midlands, North Wales, Northern England, Northern Ireland by the afternoon. And low pressure close to the southwest will swing further heavy downpours here with gusty winds, coastal gales as well. The rain continues in eastern Scotland, although more significant snow over the hills.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning
from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. Oh, definitely please enter. It is real, and that one text has just made my life 100% better.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A725 southbound, expect restrictions between Blantyre and Worley's roundabout after a broken down vehicle. On the M4 westbound, there is an accident between junction 37 at Pyle and junction 38 at Margam, with a lane closed. In Thurrock, the A13 westbound between the A1012 and the M25 has a broken down vehicle, with 3 of 4 lanes shut. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway has disruption between London St Pancras International and Bedford, while Great Western Railway is using road transport between Liskeard and Looe, with disruption from Exeter St David's towards Okehampton and Barnstaple. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Thursday the 22nd of January. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
In a moment now, President Trump's going to update us on his board of peace as more countries sign up to his plan to end global conflict, especially in Gaza. However, at least one country not attending will be Britain. They've stopped the plan over the involvement of the Russian despot, Vladimir Putin.
Well, sticking with President Trump, it's a done deal. The president backs down on his tariff threat to Britain and claims a deal to take over Greenland is complete. Although he did have this message of warning for Europe.
And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps.
Trump will meet Ukrainian President Zelensky today in Davos. He claims a deal on it bringing an end to the war in Ukraine is reasonably close.
Meanwhile, the government feels that it's been vindicated in what it sees as its calm but resolute approach. The Prime Minister will be meeting the Danish PM, Mette Frederiksen, in England later on today.
Well, also at Davos, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage will join us from Switzerland to discuss the conference. Don't miss it.
And I think you're going to find this pretty shocking. 1 in 4 children are starting reception and they are not toilet potty trained. Extraordinary. How do we reverse this crisis in our schools?
And last night, the House of Lords backed an under-16s social media ban amendment, which has piled pressure on the Prime Minister to bring in Australian-style restrictions.
And the number of people cheating on their driving tests has rocketed by half last year as hopeful drivers are using things like Bluetooth headsets and impersonators to cheat.
And Prince Harry will soon arrive at the High Court for day 4 of his privacy case against the Daily Mail publisher. Andrew, we just watched that clip of Donald Trump saying that if America hadn't have won the war, I think the Russians might have something to say about that, but if America hadn't won the war, we'd all be speaking German. And it is quite funny because he said that in Switzerland, where their main language is German. It's got nothing to do with the war, the fact that they speak German.
They were neutral.
We know what he means.
Yes, we do.
Of course, the different interpretations of what happened in the Second World War have driven most foreign policy since then, and some politicians know their history better than others, I would say.
They do. And, of course, NATO is a direct result of the Second World War, of course.
Absolutely. Well, there's one big question. Now that the Cold War is over, the Soviet Union has fallen, should NATO have the same role as it did before?
Yeah, and is this peace plan that he's got, is he setting up a rival to the United Nations? I think he is.
Well, he says no.
Of course he does, but we know he's got no time to the United Nations. He thinks it's a useless, rackety old organisation, and I think I've got a lot of sympathy with that.
Well,
what does it do?
Well, exactly. His whole thesis is that using commerce and trade, that's the way to bring peace. And if all these people have literally bought their seat on the table, then they're invested in peace in Gaza. They don't want the war to blow up again. They're going to lose their money. They're going to lose their investments.
It's $1 billion.
It's quite a clever idea.
It's
$1 billion.
£1 billion.
I don't know whether that's just for the people who represent states. I assume private individuals aren't expected to contribute. Or maybe Tony Blair's got $1 billion down the back.
Tony Blair's made a lot of money since he left off number 10. I don't think he's made that much.
Well, let's ask someone who might know. Catherine Forster, who's here with us
So
in the
is
studio.
Blair definitely going to be on the board, and is that OK with number 10?
Well, it sounded originally like he was going to be on it.
Yeah.
Then we heard he definitely wasn't going to be on it. And now we hear that he is going to be on it. What we know is that the UK is not, because of the fact that Russia has been invited. The Foreign Secretary has said that the UK has concerns about President Putin being part of something which is talking about peace. Now, I can't, no, $1 billion to be a permanent member of this Board of Peace. So I am assuming that that means for countries. The White House is saying this 35 world leaders have committed, including, obviously, Israel, but also countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, Belarus, Bahrain, and so on and so forth. No Western European countries as of yet. And I think concerns about Putin, concerns about £1 billion for what exactly? Who controls that money? Is it a rival to
I mean, it's the money for
United?
reconstruction in Gaza.
It's not completely
Because that's
clear.
it's 35 countries, that's £35 billion, that's a lot of money.
In theory, but it's not. There's a lot of things that are not totally clear about this. So I think that's why a lot of Western European leaders are sort of watching and thinking. I mean, we heard Donald Trump very punchy just a couple of days ago saying, being told that...
Just a second, Catherine, we're just going to go to the High Court because Prince Harry is arriving.
So it's day 4 of his trial against the Daily Mail and Associated Press. Of course, he claims that his phone was hacked and that different journalists used various illegal means to gain information about his private life. We'll be bringing you the latest on that. Let's go back to Catherine.
Yeah, so the other day, somebody said when Donald Trump was getting onto Air Force One, President Macron has said he's not joining your Board of Peace, and Trump said... oh, has he? Well, we don't want him anyway. And then in the same breath said, well, we'll put 200% tariffs on his wine.
French wine.
And then he'll join. So let us see. What's clear is that...
I think he also said he's on his way out anyway, so who needs him?
He exactly said he's on his way out anyway. He also took a pop at President Macron, who I think has been one of the more punchy leaders standing up to Trump the other day, talking about him in Donald Trump's, I think it was an hour and 10-minute speech yesterday, about his glasses, because he'd had an eye infection, and comment about his Ray-Ban aviators with that mirrored reflection.
They were ridiculous.
What was going on there? I thought he looked very cool. I thought
he looked cool.
I
mean, it's kind of out of place.
Well,
but
not as cool as you guys in your glasses yesterday.
We feed you the lines, Catherine.
But yes, but clearly there's a lot of tension, a huge relief. And I was talking to Number 10 earlier about the fact that Donald Trump is now saying we're going to get a deal. He's no longer using that threat of military force. He's no longer going to slap tariffs on us come the 1st of February. The deal I mean, it's not done, let's face it. There are talks. Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, is incredibly skilled at navigating Donald Trump. We know he famously called him daddy. They sat down on the fringes of Davos, and he has convinced Donald Trump that the 1951 agreement, where you can put as many troops as you want on, stands, that European countries are very keen to put more troops and equipment and do more to protect the High North. And this...
So in a sense, that's a victory for Trump, isn't it? Because he's raised concerns over security there, and NATO and everybody's now saying, OK, let's have more troops on there.
Well, yes, apart from it's not clear yet if he's actually going... And we don't know yet. But it's not clear yet if he's actually going to get anything that he couldn't have got anyway.
Well, that's...
Because they could already have put loads of troops
they could.
on. And I think there is a question mark. It's widely being reported that there'll be more US bases, which they could have done anyway, but that the US will have sovereignty on those bases like we have in Cyprus, that they are British territory. But I was speaking to somebody this morning who said that that is categorically not the case. So it'll be very interesting. And, of course, Mark Rutte does not have the ability to give any part of Greenland as sovereign territory, because that's a decision for Greenland and Denmark. But clearly we'll hear more today, because the Prime Minister is meeting Mette Frederiksen, the PM of Denmark. And the government, yes, the Prime Minister wasn't there. The Foreign Secretary has been in Davos, the National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell. The government are very keen to stress that they have been working very hard behind the scenes. They feel that their approach of being calm but saying that they won't yield on their principles has been vindicated, though I also think, let's face it, the EU has played hardball.
Yes.
Basically, the EU
first time
has stood up to Donald Trump.
Can I ask you a question, Catherine, that I asked Jennifer earlier about the implications of Trump publishing private messages, private WhatsApp messages from Macron, from others? Has he crossed a line in terms of eroding trust with other leaders? I mean, of course, he's been quite difficult to manage. He's very unorthodox. But so far, some of the European leaders have felt that at least they've got back channels where they can discuss things with him out of the public eye. They no longer have that anymore. Do you think that's something that's a line that has been crossed now?
I have in my head, and I could be wrong, that this is not the first time, though, that he's published messages. Jennifer, you're nodding.
I don't think this is the first time.
I feel that I've seen it before, but I think where he's crossed a line is in threatening NATO allies with implicitly threatening them with
an invasion.
Yeah. And actually threatening them with a trade war. So, yes, he will claim it as a win. People will say this is proof of his, art of the deal strategy. Ask for the moon and you'll get something. Let's see. But I think what has broken largely is trust, in that Europe has realised that he is changeable. He may be with them. He may not be with them. But whatever... We have been asleep at the wheel over our own defence for a long time. We have benefited from this peace dividend. We've thought that America will always be there, and we no longer can be sure of that. And we are going to have to spend a lot more money. And for all the government will say, oh, we're upping our defence spending. Really? I mean, America has just announced they are upping their defence spending this year by 50%. Yeah. And the government has said we'll go from, 2.3, 2.4 now to 2.6 in a couple of years, and that we'll get to 3 by the end of the next
Trump says it should be 5%, and that's what the Secretary-General of NATO says too.
And we've agreed to 5% by 2035, and that will be made of 3.5% on defence, 1.5% on adjacent infrastructure, things that could be loosely related to it. But we haven't actually even promised how we're going to get there, because we've only said 3% by 2030.
And the Treasury said there's no money. The Treasury said to the Ministry of Defence, there isn't the money for this.
Yeah, and this is the
problem. And they hold sway.
I think there's going to be really difficult choices, because we are not having much money, we don't have much growth, we haven't had since the financial crisis, and there's far more of us. We are older than we used to be, we're fatter than, we're less healthy than we used to be. All the costs on the state are more. and yet we're going to have to potentially go back to levels of defence spending that we haven't seen since the 1980s.
It's not just rhetoric that Trump has used in the past few weeks and months to show his power. It's real military force. And if we think about the bombing of the Iranian nuclear facilities last summer, the operation to capture the tanker earlier this month, also the incredible operation in Venezuela, Trump is proving, isn't he, that America does still have this military capability that nobody else has.
We're going to go straight to Davos. Donald Trump is now just about to walk on stage. He's going to unveil the latest details on his board of peace. Here's the applause for the president, and of course he's soaking it up. And he will make a speech. We're told it's going to be a short speech, but I'd be Jennifer very surprised if it was a short speech, because I don't think Trump does short speeches.
No, he does his weaves and...
Yeah. So,
just seen Viktor Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, seen Javier Milei, President of Argentina there. I think I might have seen Erdogan of Turkey, I'm not sure.
This is a very exciting
So here he
day.
goes. Here's Donald Trump.
Long in the making, and many countries have just received their notice, and everybody wants to be a part of it, and we'll work with many others, including the United Nations. But I want to thank you all for being here. Yesterday we had an incredibly successful visit with many of the world's top business leaders, the best, the biggest, most successful, and foreign heads of state. And now we have one of the most important meetings of all, the official formation of what is known as the Board of Peace. I want to thank the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner, and their extraordinary work. I mean, they've done an amazing job. We have peace in the Middle East. Nobody thought that was possible. We've settled 8 wars, and I believe another one's coming pretty soon. You know what that is? The one that I thought was going to be an easy one has turned out to be probably the most difficult. Last month, 29,000 people died, mostly soldiers, in Ukraine, Russia. Think of that, 29,000, 27,000 in the month before, 26,000 in the month before that. It's terrible. But we have meetings and we think we're making a lot of progress. Thanks as well to Secretary Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, and Chris Wright, U.S. Trade Representative, Jamieson Greer. They're all doing such an incredible job. Ambassador Callista Gingrich, who is here, doing a fantastic, really fantastic work. Thank you, Callista. And many other members of my administration who are so committed to peace, and they're also committed to great success. Very importantly, let me recognize the very first group of distinguished members of the Board of Peace. They will be introduced by name in just a moment. Caroline will be doing that introduction. And to each and every one of you, we are truly honored by your presence today. Leaders of countries, in most cases very popular leaders, some cases not so popular, but that's the way it goes in life. Thanks as well to President Karol Nawrocki of Poland, who's a fantastic man. He just won a very big election. I'm very proud of him. Amazing. Along with former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Tony Blair. Thank you, Tony, for being here. We appreciate it. And members of the Board of Peace Executive Board, great group. This week marks the 1-year anniversary of my second inauguration as president. No administration in history has achieved such a sweeping turnaround in 12 months' time at home and abroad. We have a tremendous mandate. We won the popular vote by millions. We won every swing state to 7. They were saying, can you win all 7? Is it possible? Because it's not done. And we won all 7. We have a great mandate back at home. As I said yesterday, the U.S. economy is booming with virtually no inflation. It was 1.2% for the last 3 months. And we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. And we have economic growth now of 5.4%, looks like. And I think that number can double and triple if we do the right things. And if we change thinking so that if you announce good numbers, the markets go up, instead of if you announce good numbers, the market goes down because everybody tries to kill it by lowering or raising interest rates depending on the situation. When America booms, the entire world booms. And we have secured commitments for over $18 trillion in new investment coming into our country, which is a record by many times over, not just by a little bit, by many times. There's no country ever in history that's gotten anywhere near that number. Slashed our trade deficit by 77%. This is in 1 year. Yesterday was 1 year. And signed historic trade deals with nations from all over the globe. Today, the world is richer, safer, and much more peaceful than it was just 1 year ago. We put out all those fires. A lot of people didn't know, including me, that some of those wars were going on. And some of them were going on for, in one case, 32 years, in another case, 35 years, and another one, 37 years. We were very happy to stop the war that had started with India and Pakistan, two nuclear nations. And I was very honored when the Prime Minister of Pakistan said President Trump saved 10 and maybe 20 million lives by getting that stopped just before bad things were going to happen. As president, I ended those 8 wars in 9 months, including Cambodia and Thailand. And by the way, many of the leaders are here. Kosovo and Serbia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia. We're working on that right now. I met yesterday with a very good general and a very good leader of Egypt. We're working on a dam that was built which precludes the Nile River from getting water. It's a little tough situation, but we'll get that settled. I really had it just about settled in my first term, and then we had a rigged election. Took me out of commission for a little while, but here I am back. We'll get it settled. But it's a pretty tough situation. A dam was built and the water doesn't come down to the Nile. When I think of Egypt, I think of the Nile, but I think of the Nile with water in it. Armenia and Azerbaijan, who, I mean, a lot of these leaders have become my friends. They become my friends. They're here. And of course, the war in Gaza, which is really coming to an end. We have little fires that we'll put out, but they're little. They were giant, massive fires, and now they're down to little fires. We can put them out very easily. We have 59 countries that are involved in peace in the Middle East. Many of them not in the Middle East. They're near the Middle East, but they're not in the Middle East. And many have said that if Hamas doesn't do what they promised they would do, and I think they probably will, but they were born with rifles in their hands. They were literally born. The first day they had a rifle put into their hands, but they have to give up their weapons. And if they don't do that, it's going to be the end of them. But many countries have told me we want to go in and do it, and they really aren't countries that you traditionally think of as being involved in that. But that's the fire. Hezbollah in Lebanon, we have to do something about that. But these are, I call them remnants. They're small remnants compared to what it was before. It was massive, large, powerful countries fighting each other. In another great victory for the ultimate goal of peace, in June, we obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity with Operation, we call it Operation Midnight Hammer. It was midnight, it was dark, no moon, and every single one of those bombs from the B-2 bombers hit the air shafts and went deep into the earth and totally obliterated everything that they were doing. They were 2 months away from having a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And Iran does want to talk, and we'll talk. We've also hit ISIS in Syria, and very strongly, as you know. In my first administration, I took out al-Baghdadi, the founder of ISIS, and he was trying to start it up again because due to the tremendous talent of General Raisin Kane, as I call him, He wiped out ISIS in a period of 3 weeks in my first term. You know, we had a great first term, but the second term is, I think, blowing it away, actually. But we took out ISIS, and we had it was gone. But during the Biden administration, it formed again a little bit. We hit it very hard in Syria. And Syria, by the way, I spoke with the president, is making a lot of progress, tremendous progress, actually. We're very happy about that. We took off all sanctions, which gives them a chance to breathe. And he is working very, very hard, and I think he's going to put it all together. So many things are happening, many good things. Threats to Europe and America, the Middle East, and other places are really calming down. It's a lot different than it was just 1 year ago. Just 1 year ago, the world was actually on fire. A lot of people didn't know it. And in Nigeria, we're annihilating terrorists who are killing Christians. We've hit them very hard. They've killed thousands and thousands of Christians. What's that all about? Much of this unprecedented success is possible because I rebuilt our military in my first term, and now we're making it even stronger. We have a budget of over $1 trillion this year, and next year we're going to $1.5 trillion. Our country's never done better economically. We're taking in numbers that we've never taken in, not only the fact that the investment is at 18 trillion plus, but our jobs numbers, everything is, I think, maybe better than ever before. I think you're going to see and a lot of you are investing in our country. I think you're going to be extremely happy with your investments. I think you'll see numbers like you haven't seen before. I also secured commitments from virtually all NATO allies to increase their defense spending to 5% of GDP. Everybody but Spain. I don't know what's happening with Spain. Why would they not do that? They want a free ride, I guess, huh? Every country but Spain increased to 5%. I don't know why. We're going to have to talk to Spain. With America's renewed attention to security of the Western Hemisphere, I've stopped the invasion on our southern border and designated the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And you probably saw that we've virtually stopped almost 100% all drugs coming in by water. Now we're going to stop them on land. The land is easy. The water is tough. But that's down now. I heard it just last night. It was 97. Now it's 98.1%. And we're trying to figure out who are the 2% that are willing to get onto those boats. I don't think they watch television or the news. But we've taken out almost 100% of all of the drugs coming into the United States by water. And now we'll, I think, very easily stop them on land. That's the easy part. We wanted to wait till the other was taken care of. And earlier this month, thanks to the unrivaled skill, power, and might of the U.S. military, we have the most powerful military in the world by far. We captured the dictator, Nicolas Maduro, and the people of Venezuela are very happy about it. And we're having great relationships with the new leaders of Venezuela. The relationships have been good. We're opening up the country to our giant oil companies, and it's going very well. We've already taken out, think of this, 50 million barrels of oil, and a lot of that's going to go back to Venezuela. They'll do more income with us in a short period of time than they did in years, because as much oil as they have, and they have a lot, just about the most. After us, there's a couple of countries that are in that category, but we have the most, actually, and they're second between Venezuela and us. We have 62% of the world's oil, but they have very little production, so they'll have a lot of production. All the oil companies, we had meetings, you probably saw, all the oil companies want to go in. They want to go in immediately. They're already touring the sites. But our military was amazing. That strike was amazing. We had a second wave coming. We didn't need it. They said, no second wave. We don't want a second wave. The first wave was enough. And, of course, we're working to end the horrible killing in Ukraine, a war that should never have happened and would have never happened if I were president. That was not going to happen. I used to speak to Vladimir Putin about Ukraine, and it was the apple of his eye, but he would never have ever done it. Said, you can't do that, Vladimir. As part of this historic record of major peace initiatives, today we're announcing more details regarding the Board of Peace, so important. This board has the chance to be one of the most consequential bodies ever created, and it's my enormous honor to serve as its chairman. I was very honored when they asked me to do it. We had an idea to do it, and then they came, they said, you be the chairman. And but I take it very seriously. We have a great group of people and incredible young people that are leading it from within. It's running beautifully, started already. And every country, just about every country, wants to be a part of it. And we just sent out the letters a couple of days ago, and these are just the countries that are here. They happen to be in Davos. So we said, would be honored if you wanted to join us up on the stage. And it's really great. They're friends of mine. I think, let me see. Yeah, every one of them is a friend of mine. A couple, let's see, a couple I like, a couple I don't like. No, I like, actually, this group, I like every single one of them. Can you believe it? Usually I have about 2 or 3 that I can't stand. Usually I have 2 or 3 that I don't like. I don't find them up here. I like every one of these people. No, they're great people. They're great leaders. And the Board of Peace is composed of leaders, the top leaders in the world, actually. Last October, we released a plan for the permanent end to the conflict in Gaza, and I'm pleased to say that our vision was unanimously adopted by the United Nations Security Council late last year. Under phase 1 of this plan, we have painstakingly maintained that Gaza, and we're going to have it very strongly, and it's what we have. Maintained the Gaza ceasefire, delivered record levels of humanitarian aid. We've given aid. You know, you used to hear all the people were starving and it was terrible. Now we have, you don't hear that anymore. We've delivered record levels of humanitarian aid. I want to thank the United States, but I want to thank some of the countries that are sitting right up here, because they've sent great aid, aid also in the form of money, where we go out and purchase food, and you don't hear those stories anymore with people starving. And secured the release of all 20, we secured the release of all 20 living hostages. Now I want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared and everybody for working so hard. They worked so hard, but there were 20 remaining living hostages. Now we got hundreds out, but the last 20, I said, boy, that's going to be a tough one. I said that a year before. And it was a tough one, but we got them. Got all 20, every one of them. And we had also about 28 that were dead, but the parents wanted them just as though they were living, just as much. Some cases it almost seemed more. It was amazing, actually, the love. But their boy had been killed in just about all cases, young men. Their boy had been killed, and they wanted the body of the boy, and it looked like it couldn't be done. And with the exception of one, and we're close on the track of that, we've got them all, every single one of them, which is amazing. It's a rough job. That was a rough job. And I've been very clear that Hamas must return that last remaining deceased hostage as well, and that will be the full commitment. And then we get on to other things, and we're committed to ensuring Gaza is demilitarized, properly governed, and beautifully rebuilt. It's going to be a great plan, and that's where the Board of Peace really started. And I think we can spread out to other things as we succeed with Gaza. We're going to be very successful in Gaza. It's going to be a great thing to watch. And we can do other things. We can do numerous other things. Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do. And we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations. You know, I've always said the United Nations has got tremendous potential, has not used it. But there's tremendous potential in the United Nations. And you have some great people at the United Nations. But so far it hasn't, On the 8 wars that I ended, I never spoke to the United Nations about any of them. And you would think that I should have. You would think they could have done those 8 wars, but they couldn't have. And they tried, I guess, in some of them, but they didn't try hard enough. But there's tremendous potential with the United Nations, and I think the combination of the Board of Peace with the kind of people we have here, coupled with the United Nations, can be something very, very unique for the world. It's for the world. This isn't United States. This is for the world. As everyone can see today, the first steps toward a brighter day for the Middle East and a much safer future for the world are unfolding right before your very eyes. Together, we are in a position to have an incredible chance. I don't even call it a chance. I think it's going to happen. To end decades of suffering, stop generations of hatred and bloodshed, and forge a beautiful, everlasting, and glorious peace for that region and for the whole region of the world, because I'm calling the world a region. The world is a region. We're going to have peace in the world. And boy, would that be a great legacy for all of us. Everybody in this room is a star, or you wouldn't be here. There's a reason that you're here, and you're all stars. You're the biggest people, the most important people in the world, most powerful people in the world. And when you use that genius that you have, that very unusual, very inspired genius, when you use that for peace, the opposite of peace has no chance. So I just want to say it's tremendous to be with you, and I think this is something that we're doing that's very important. This is the most important. I was so looking forward to being here, and yesterday was a tremendous success. A lot of good things happened, but this was something that I really wanted to be here and do, and I could think of no better place because so many people were together. And now to bring the Board of Peace into full force, I ask Sheikh Isa of Bahrain and Foreign Minister Barita of Morocco to join me in signing and ratifying the Board of Peace Charter. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that's Donald Trump. He's finished his speech. Mercifully short by Donald Trump standards, actually. And there will now be the official signing of the deal, the peace board. There's a number of world leaders on stage with him, and he thanked quite a lot of them in his speech, Miriam. He was very generous in his speech, I thought, to other world leaders.
He did, and his own administration.
Yes, it certainly was. Jennifer, have you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was basically a mini State of the Union where he's saying, you know, Trump's greatest hits. He talked about the countries, I think he mentioned 8, in which he's helped peace, right? Yeah. Whether or not that peace remains is to be seen. But I think if you zoom out, what's more important is President Trump was elected on an America First agenda, which means he needs to spend more time looking inward. So what is he doing here? I think he's deputizing other people around the world in order to help with the peace. We have said over and over again, whether it's the president, the vice president, indeed the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the United States is no longer in the business of spreading democracy around the world like we tried to do in 20 years in Afghanistan. What we want to do is help spread stability. So he's thinks very much that the UN, while it has potential, as he says, has been completely ineffective. He thinks NATO, without the United States, is completely ineffective. So he's trying something different. And I think, as we touched on earlier, you know, the United Kingdom doesn't want to be a part of it because Putin's a part of it. Look, you've got Millet, you've got, you know, all these people. I think the more people, the better. Diversity of thought. And, I'm hopeful that this could actually work out.
All right, we've got our panel with us, Carol Malone and Judita De Silva. Malone, quite a short speech by the president's standards.
Well, by his standards, but not a short speech at all. Yeah, but I mean, he did spend most of it talking about how great he is and what America's done for the rest of the world, which is interesting. I mean, you know, in important words, he says, you know, Gaza will be demilitarized and rebuilt, which is good. He says...
but they haven't. The trouble is, Miriam and I were talking about this earlier, they didn't destroy Hamas.
No, they haven't destroyed Hamas.
They were rebuilding.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but it was very interesting on that Board of Peace there. We were just talking when he was talking. There was only one woman there. Do you notice that? So
I did.
He wants peace, but he doesn't want women involved, which is odd. It is, he is. You wouldn't believe he was the president, really, because he just sounds like he just rambles on about himself and how great he is and how great America is, when all these people are waiting to talk about the border. They're signing the agreement right as we speak right now.
Judith, what do you think?
Again, it just seems like the series of speeches that he's done have just exhibited this kind of monologue that's a stream of consciousness. And we're kind of meandering through the canals of his mind and hoping to make sense of it. But when you look at the position that he's in now, with that point he said about he's running on an America First agenda, what he's effectively done, you've come to this world stage and you've diminished, you've dismissed, you've insulted all the countries that should be your allies and have been America's allies historically. What you have done is that operated in such a way that you're isolating America. It's almost like you're moving from the Bibi Netanyahu playbook, where when America's got no one else, they've got to depend on me. And when you look at the way he says that, oh, America
That is
first,
true, Judita. That is absolutely true.
He's spreading America very thin in a very particular way when you look at Venezuela, Iran. He wants Chagos, Greenland. What do those countries represent? They represent the global south. And everybody knows that the move for the next frontier will be who has a stake in the global south. His biggest fear is China. China has been doing deals with Africa and India for a long time. They provide munitions, rare mineral deals, and the key thing is they do business in their own currency. They don't do it in US dollars. That's what he fears.
You say that she's isolating America. I don't think he is at all. I think it's the opposite. I mean, everyone, when they were in Davos there, every leader was desperate to get 5 minutes with him. They're all scrabbling around him.
Think about that point.
Hang on, let me finish. America has become more important than ever before to us because now he's telling us what America has given us, and it's true. And the reason that Europe and the rest of the NATO allies couldn't rail against him is because we are entirely, totally dependent on him for our security. And that is our bad. That is our fault. We have let that happen. We have not built up our militaries because we've depended on America's military.
But that's a good point, because look, that then goes into what I was saying about the movement, the look at the global south and what he's panicking about. Why he's gone about it so difficult, people in America are saying, is that your lack of diplomacy is problematic, because what you're doing is providing motivation for Europe to look inward and see, how does the world function if we don't depend on them? Because think about it, that when it comes to money, because Trump is a money man, economically, the biggest single market is the EU. If they get to a point where they no longer want to trade with you because they call your bluff the way China and Canada did, America is in trouble.
You're talking like the mantra, America first is a bad thing. I don't think it is.
It's not a bad thing. The way you go about it.
I wish we had a prime minister who said Britain first. I wish we had a prime minister that put Britain's interests first and had the guts.
Well, that's why a lot of people voted for Brexit.
Yeah,
but we were talking about this just before, that when you look at the decided tone shift in people in EU and even Keir Starmer, the point you made before we came on, that in the next few years, everyone's having elections. And what this has done is, what do you make the people in your country feel like when you're being insulted by America? Do you stand tall? And what Gavin Newsom said is that, where is your spine? The people in America, you're supine, because he recognises that elections are coming up. And if you don't look leaderly, that's why we have Emmanuel Macron with the aviators looking like he's ready to fight.
I think that is a really good point. And I think there's a danger for people on the right in this country who might be sympathetic to Trump's agenda, support a lot of the things he's doing and feel strong affiliation with the way that he's sorted out immigration, reduced the balance of trade. But it's a bad look for people on the right in this country to say, thank you, Trump, for insulting us. Thank you, Trump, for getting us on an even keel. Thank you, Trump, for pointing out that we all go wrong. I think people close ranks at that point.
Let's just bring Jennifer. Jennifer, do you think he's been insulting his allies?
Well, I don't think it matters, quite frankly. Right. We've been dealing with this man for 10 years.
It doesn't matter for you in America.
No. I live here. I have a British passport as well. I live here. So, yes, it does matter. Especially... But I think we're beyond the tone and the unpresidential rhetoric. Is it effective or is it not? Yes, and I think that the fact of the matter is, as Kel said, this is very effective because it's getting people... There's three ways in which our countries are diverging: freedom of speech and censorship, illegal immigration, and energy security. All three of those things, the United States, because of Trump's very brash language, is saying, what are you doing, Western Europe? Yeah. You have basically, he's been saying this since 2018 to Germany, like, why are you shutting your nuclear plants? You are completely reliant on Russia.
About the North Sea, he's saying you could get your energy prices down if you use your
and you can shut your borders.
And everybody out there listens to that and says, yes, he's right.
But effective in what direction? Because take a look at what we've seen over the last 24 hours with Mark Carney and with Emmanuel Macron. They're beginning to tweak that. This intimidation tariff technique is something we cannot keep dancing to and tap dancing to. And they do recognise that if Europe is unified, unified. You are a large single market that if you shut off the doors to America, they will hurt economically. That is a card you can play.
They can't be unified.
But this is what is unifying them. Trump is inadvertently becoming a singular motivator to unify people that otherwise wouldn't.
But I'm not saying the bully should always win, but what I'm saying is that when the person in charge of the leader of the West, when we have allowed America to be that powerful, that is our fault.
Yes.
And we are in no position to fight back now. Even if Europe unites and says, what you're doing is terrible, what can we realistically do that's going to hurt Donald Trump or America?
Play the president of Finland yesterday, right on stage, said basically, he was asked, yes, we're fine, we don't need America's money. And then 10 minutes later on the same stage, they said, you just said, you didn't need America's money. He's like, no, that's not a direct quote. And they somebody should pull it up because it's hilarious. He walks back the exact quote. So to your point, sadly, what can the EU, what can Britain do? Nothing.
And I have to say, these world leaders on this stage are fawning over him as we speak while they're signing this book.
Well, they all want
photographs. They all want photographs with him.
Isn't it interesting that our Prime Minister, who would go to the opening of an envelope in a foreign country just to be grandstanding, did not go
It's because
to
he
Davos?
wasn't going to get it.
Because he's terrified of Trump.
He wasn't going to get a face-to-face, which would have been humiliating.
Let's bring in our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, no Keir Starmer on the stage, refused to join this Board of Peace. Do you think that's a permanent decision? Might he be persuaded?
Well, it's possible, but at the moment, the United Kingdom are not getting involved. They have a couple of concerns. First of all, of course, that Vladimir Putin of Russia has been invited. The Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has said this morning they have concerns about President Putin being part of something which is talking about peace. I think there's also concerns in the UK government that this Board of Peace that Donald Trump is creating, which was originally around reconstruction of Gaza, has now broadened out and might potentially undermine the United Nations. Now, we heard Donald Trump speaking a little bit earlier, and he said that he will do this in conjunction with the United Nations, and he said that the United Nations has tremendous potential, but it hasn't really used it. I think what a difference a day makes. Yesterday, human tornado. Europe was worrying if he was going to invade Greenland, slap tariffs on them. Europe played hardball yesterday. They stood up to him. And he seems to have had a rethink. There's going to be some sort of deal over Greenland. We know that the Prime Minister is meeting Mette Frederiksen, the Danish PM, in England today. Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, has certainly a very good way of dealing with Donald Trump, but there's a lot to be nailed down. But just the change of tone in language today really struck me, because Donald Trump saying everybody wants to be on this. Well, sure, a lot of people do. We see Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, speaking now. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
It's paramount to all of us. We are here today because of President Trump's vision. If we go back just a few months ago, people thought what was happening in Gaza was impossible to solve. 28 hostages that were dead, others that were still living, all these hostages that were being held. No one thought that would ever come to a resolution without more fighting and more bloodshed along the way. In fact, frankly, many thought it was intractable. And sadly, many of the institutions that have served us well, in many cases, for the last 70 years, were unable to do anything about it. But President Trump had the vision and the courage to dream the impossible, to believe that it was doable, and to pursue it with all of his heart. And he was in that capacity assisted by an extraordinary team, and I think both Jared and Steve deserve a tremendous amount of credit. Jared Kushner and Steve Woodcock for all the work they put in. And all of our partners here today. And now we have this Board of Peace, who I believe's possibilities are endless. Obviously with a focus first and foremost on making sure that this peace deal in Gaza becomes enduring. And I know this president has it as his highest priority, and will give it everything he has to make sure that this is successful. I also want to acknowledge the extraordinary leaders that are here today. This is not just a board of peace, this is a board of action. Just like President Trump is a president of action. A lot of times people like to give speeches. I've been to many of these forums, and they're not useless, and they're not, they have utility in many cases. But oftentimes in international affairs, we often find ourselves at events where people are reading these scripted statements, these strongly worded letters that they put out, but no action. Nothing happens. This is a group of leaders that are about action. And the President of the United States is a president of action, of getting things done. And today is the beginning of that, of a new era and a new stage that we think is so important as a model to the rest of the world of what is possible. And clearly the focus is right now on Gaza and making sure that the plan that's about to be presented to you here today, this vision for the future of Gaza, this vision for the future of the region, is not just possible and promising. It is our destiny if we put the time and the effort that it requires, as I know this board will do. But I also think it will serve as an example of what's possible in other parts of the world. Without losing focus on what's before us now, this is what's possible for other places and other conflicts that seem impossible to solve right now. So I want to, on behalf of the United States, on behalf of the team that worked so hard on this, thank every single one of the leaders that are here today and all the countries that have committed to joining, and many others who are going to join. Others either are not in town today or they have to go through some procedure internally in their own country because of constitutional limitations, but others will join. Many want to be a part of this effort because it is going to be a successful effort. And you see it reflected here today among countries of different backgrounds from different parts of the world, majority Christian some, majority Muslim others, who've come together. In fact, former adversaries who have joined here as part of this Board of Peace. And all was possible, and I want to acknowledge this again, because of the vision and the drive of the President of the United States. So thank you all for joining us here today. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Secretary Rubio. Please, if you could now turn your attention to the screens for a video message from the head of the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, Dr. Ali Shaith.
Distinguished leaders, colleagues and friends, it is an honor to be here today. I want to start by thanking President Donald J. Trump and his administration for their intensive efforts to advance peace in the whole region. I also thank Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Qatar, and Turkey as mediators, the Palestinian Authority, and members of the United Nations Security Council for welcoming the comprehensive peace plan. These efforts created the opportunity for a new future in Gaza Strip. But what will really matter is what comes next. This transition will succeed only if it delivers real, tangible improvements in daily life for Gazans. As Chief Commissioner of the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, it's my responsibility to turn this moment into action, to restore order, to rebuild institutions, and to create a future for the people of Gaza defined by opportunity and dignity, under the principle of one authority, one law, and one weapon. As a first step, I am pleased to announce the Rafah crossing will open next week in both directions. For Palestinians in Gaza, Rafah is more than a gate. It is a lifeline and symbol of opportunity. Opening Rafah signals that Gaza is no longer closed to the future and to the war. I want to be clear, there is much more work ahead, and none of it is easy. The road forward will involve difficult decisions and setbacks, but this is a real step, and it marks a new direction. Now, I would like to address the people of Gaza. من أرض الكنانة أتوجه الآن بكلمتي إلى أبناء شعبنا الصامد الصابر في قطاع غزة. لقد صمدتم وحافظتم على أسركم وأرضكم خلال سنوات عصيبة عجاف صبرت أعماقكم وكل الحدود.
Extraordinary scenes there. We saw Donald Trump address the audience in Davos on the world leaders on stage, and then Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, also give thanks to Donald Trump and the various leaders, some of whom were former adversaries, he said, coming together to guarantee peace in Gaza.
35 countries have signed up so far. No Britain, no France, no Germany, no major Western European country.
Although some of them, as Marco Rubio did point out there, are waiting for constitutional direction. So the Italians, for example, under their constitution, are not allowed to join a foreign body that is headed up by one nation, in contrast to the United Nations, obviously a group effort. So potentially some others to join there. But it is an achievement, even if it doesn't last that long. It is a remarkable achievement to get these world leaders on the stage together.
I wonder what it's going to do for the special relationship, the fact that Britain is refusing to join because of Putin. You're an expert on the special relationship.
I mean, I'm listening to all of this, and first of all, I think it's fantastic. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So this is something different. And, you know, God bless all these people and, you know, the sadness that's gone on in the Middle East longer than some of us have been alive. With regards to this special relationship, I'm stunned, actually, that Prime Minister Keir Starmer is not there because of Putin. First of all, we have fought with Russia in other wars before. This too will pass, Ukraine and Russia. And for 3.5 years before President Trump was elected, nobody, including the United Kingdom, even mentioned the word peace. They were happy to see it go on. So I think it's a mistake by the Prime Minister. I hope he does change his mind and join up, because just like President Trump pointed out, or excuse me, Marco Rubio pointed out, tons of adversaries there, and that's how you get peace. You don't live in an echo chamber with all of the people that think the same way. You know, we all jump up and down about diversity, but what about diversity of thought and background? And that's exactly what we have here, and I'd love to see more of it. I hope the UK gets involved.
Madam, what do you think?
Do we not think Starmer didn't go there? I mean, you know, we all know Starmer is gutless. He's a coward. He doesn't like confrontation. He's tried very hard since he's been in power to ride two horses, to placate Europe and to placate Trump. And what he's not realised yet is that you can't ride two horses. With Trump, you're either all in or you're all out. And if you're not entirely supportive of him, you're in trouble. So now Trump is turning on him. He's actually called the Chagos deal stupid the other day, and he's called what he's doing. He's called our green policies stupid.
He also called the Prime Minister two-faced.
And he called him two-faced. So if Starmer goes there, he's going to get an earful. He'll probably get more of a public bashing. I mean, he mentioned Starmer in his keynote speech, so he's going to get an even bigger bashing if he goes there. And as I say, for Starmer not to be there, this man will go to a foreign country and grandstand for the least thing. He's barely been in this country since he was elected, yet he hasn't gone to this massive forum where almost every world leader was there. It's crazy.
It's the one time he should have been on a trip.
We will come back to this, and we will get Judy in next time, so I'm sure you've got plenty to say about this.
And don't forget, we're going to be talking to Reform leader Nigel Farage, who's joining us from Davos shortly, so don't go anywhere. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show, and Nigel Farage will have quite a lot to say, I think.
Yes, interestingly, that he is really, by default, representing the UK at Davos now.
Absolutely.
So,
he's filled a vacuum left by the Prime Minister. Keir, you should have been there, mate. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
There's your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Another day with spells of rain across many parts of the UK. Showery, so on and off for many, but more prolonged for parts of eastern Scotland, where there is a warning running through till the end of Friday because of the risk of significant accumulation, 60 millimetres widely for eastern Scotland, 120 over the hills. There'll be some snow over the hill and mountain tops as well, increasingly so during the next couple of days as colder winds arrive. But for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We've got these outbreaks of rain on and off, heavy showers towards the south and southwest in particular. Some drier interludes, feeling unpleasant all in all as those showers set in. Very few places staying dry, although the far north of Scotland likely to be a little drier, albeit cloudy with a few light showers here and there. But it's across eastern Scotland where we do have that warning because of the risk of a prolonged rain leading to flooding by the end of Friday. Heavy rain moving through Glasgow as well at this time of the day. The rain on and off further south across Scotland. Northern Ireland, England, Wales seeing showery outbreaks. Something a little drier and clearer in the south and southwest for a time before the next system moves in. as we go through Thursday night and into the start of Friday. So the weather very unsettled at the moment, with a lot of rain around, but the key points are that it's going to be particularly wet in the east of Scotland, that continuing into the start of Friday, and increasingly windy as we begin Friday to the south. That will keep things frost-free, of course, but an unpleasant start to the day, certainly a tricky commute across southern England and South Wales as the next band of persistent and at times heavy rain moves northwards, that pushing into the Midlands, North Wales, Northern England, Northern Ireland by the afternoon. And low pressure close to the southwest will swing further heavy downpours here with gusty winds, coastal gales as well. The rain continues in eastern Scotland, although more significant snow over the hills.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. Oh, definitely please enter. It is real, and that one text has just made my life 100% better.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 22nd of January, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pierce and Miriam Cates.
Well, a few minutes ago, world leaders signed Donald Trump's Board of Peace Charter. Take a listen to this.
War in Gaza, which is really coming to an end. We have little fires that we'll put out, but they're little. They were giant, massive.
Britain, however, was a conspicuous absentee.
Yes, Britain is concerned because Russia has been invited onto this Board of Peace. But Donald Trump says that everybody wants to be on it. But in fact, there were no European leaders sitting there except for Hungary's Viktor Orban.
Meanwhile, a shocking new report finds that 1 in 4 children are starting reception at school not toilet trained. So how do we reverse this school readiness crisis?
Extraordinary vote in the House of Lords, which overwhelmingly backed last night a ban on under-16s on social media. This is piling pressure on Sir Keir Starmer to do another U-turn and bring in an Australian-style restrictions.
And have our veterans been betrayed, as they could face prosecution for their conduct during the Northern Ireland Troubles? This is after MPs voted to remove protections in the Northern Ireland Legacy Act.
And the number of people cheating on their driving tests has rocketed by almost 50% in 12 months. Drivers are turning to Bluetooth headsets impersonators to cheat their way to a pass. Extraordinary figures, aren't they, on driving tests?
Yeah.
I mean, literally thousands of people have been caught cheating.
Yeah.
That means there are thousands more that haven't been caught cheating. And they're using technology to get through the theory test.
Absolutely. Bluetooth headsets in their ear. I assume people telling them the answers.
Absolutely.
Without the,
and then using impersonators to drive the car.
Now, of course, it's no excuse, but one of the reasons that the RAC are giving for this rise in cheating is the amount of time it takes to get a test. The waiting list now is huge. My son is he's got to wait till June to take a test, whereas before the pandemic, it was just a few weeks. Now it can be up to 6 months or more, and we're told that it won't be reduced, that wait, until 2027. So if you do want to learn to drive and pass quickly, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk to somebody who's very involved in driving tests, who's going to tell us just about some of the extraordinary measures lengths people have gone to get a pass. Now, as ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you very much. The top stories. The first illegal migrants have been moved into a former military barracks in East Sussex as ministers face pressure to end the use of hotels. Some 27 men have been housed at Crowborough training camp, planned to accommodate up to 500 adult male migrants while their claims for asylum in the UK are being processed. The government has vowed to end the use of hotels to house asylum seekers by the end of this parliament and announced plans to use the Crowborough base and Cameron Barracks in Inverness in Scotland as part of these efforts last year. There have been a series of protests in Crowborough and opposition from Wealdon District Council over the move. Latest Home Office figures show the number of asylum seekers being temporarily housed in hotels increased by 13% to 36,273 at the end of September. Donald Trump says things are really calming down as he joined other world leaders at a ceremony for his Board of Peace. Britain didn't sign up to Donald Trump's Board of Peace today amid concerns about Russian involvement in the plan. Yvette Cooper said the UK would discuss with allies the different supportive role it could play in the Gaza peace process as she faced questions about the prospect of joining the group. The Foreign Secretary said Britain strongly supports the US President's wider 20-point peace plan for the Middle East, repeating his refrain on ending the wars. Donald Trump said, "We have peace in the Middle East," adding, "We've settled 8 wars, and I believe another one's coming pretty soon."
And of course, the war in Gaza, which is really coming to an end. We have little fires that we'll put out, but they're little. They were giant, massive fires, and now they're down to little fires. And many have said that if Hamas doesn't do what they promised they would do, and I think they probably will, but they were born with rifles in their hands, they were literally born. The first day they had a rifle put into their hands, but they have to give up their weapons, and if they don't do that, it's going to be the end of them.
Sir Keir Starmer says the hard yards of bolstering Arctic security can begin as he welcomed Donald Trump dropping tariff threats against European nations opposed to his ambitions to annex Greenland. The Prime Minister also saying he hadn't spoken to Donald Trump since the US President lifted his tariff threat, but will do very soon. The US president says the US is exploring a potential deal on Greenland after talks with NATO as he backed off threats to tariff European allies for opposing his plans. On social media, Mr. Trump offered few details about a discussion that both he and NATO described as very productive. After rattling the transatlantic alliance with weeks of rhetoric, the US president said the meeting had led to the framework of a potential agreement. Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride spoke to GB News this morning.
I think we have learned once again is that on this issue, for example, the threat of tariffs in relation to Greenland, it was, I think, when Europe kind of got together and we, with one voice, said that there would be retaliatory action in the event that America went down that road. So I do think one of the things it tells us is that we can't constantly be reeling from President Trump. We have to sort of put some lines in the sand here. And when that is done, history tells us that it is often the case that Donald Trump moves his position. And I think that's part of the story that you've seen here.
The Duke of Sussex has returned to the High Court today to support fellow claimants in their legal action against the publisher of the Daily Mail. Prince Harry gave evidence in court yesterday, during which he said Associated Newspapers Limited, which also publishes the Mail on Sunday, made his wife Meghan's life an absolute misery. Liz Hurley is expected to give evidence today. She's arrived at the Royal Courts of Justice this morning. The alleged unlawful information gathering in the Duke's case relates to 14 articles between 2001 and 2013. ANL strongly denied wrongdoing. Elsewhere, detectives are hoping a £20,000 reward will unlock new evidence to solve a murder that resulted in the wrong man spending 38 years in prison. Peter Sullivan had been serving a life sentence for the 1986 murder of Diane Sindel in Merseyside, but fresh DNA testing saw him cleared by the Court of Appeal and released from prison in May of 2025. Sindel, a florist who was also working part-time at a pub to save up for her wedding, was beaten to death in a frenzied sexual attack on Borough Road in Birkenhead. 4 years, Sullivan was dubbed the Beast of Birkenhead and the Mersey Ripper by tabloid newspapers. Elsewhere, 2 people have died in a landslide at Welcome Bay in New Zealand's east coast. Rescue workers have said there are no signs of life at the campsite. Minister for Emergency Management Mark Mitchell has confirmed at least 1 young girl is among those unaccounted for. Another landslide at nearby Papamoa has seriously injured 1 person, with 2 others still missing. And Met Office weather warnings, including a more severe amber warning, have been issued for rain in parts of the UK. Heavy rain in eastern Scotland, Northern Ireland and parts of England and Wales will bring significant rainfall and the risk of flooding. Strong winds will accompany the rain, particularly in north-east Scotland. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more news in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3448 and €1.1500 euros. The price of gold, £3,591 and 46 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 10,224 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And we're going to go straight back to Davos because President Trump is speaking again.
Under construction, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And this is just an honor to be involved with this and to be involved with the great people in this room and the great leaders that are sitting on stage. We thank you very much. And we have many others that have signed up, and they all want to be members of the Board of Peace because it really will be important. This is not going to be a waste of time. We waste so much time on things that never happen. This will happen, and it's already happening. Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to be with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Donald Trump finally rounding off his Board of Peace, which has been signed now by a number of world leaders. We've got some breaking news here in the Westminster Village. Catherine Forster's with us, our chief political correspondent. A lot of speculation about Andy Burnham limbering up to challenge Keir Starmer for the leadership of the Labour Party. The problem is, for the Mayor of Greater Manchester, he doesn't have a seat in the House of Commons. However, what's happening?
Well, not officially confirmed yet, but the Times are just reporting now that Andrew Gwynn is set to stand down as an MP, which would clear the way for Andy Burnham. Potentially, there would be a by-election and Andy Burnham would then plan to stand in his seat. Of course,
Andrew Gwynn and Burnham are mates.
They are. And Andrew Gwynn is the former health minister. He lost the Labour whip over offensive WhatsApp messages, so he's currently an independent. And there's been a lot of speculation of who might give up a seat. It sounds like he's the one. He's the MP for Gorton and Denton, which is in the north west. And, of course, Andy Burnham is the mayor of Greater Manchester. And the polling suggests that swapping the Prime Minister, unpopular though he is, with anybody else that's currently in the cabinet wouldn't actually give Labour a bump in the polls. And the only person who would improve Labour's polling is the Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham. Now, I was up in Leeds last week when Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, was making an announcement on Northern Transport. I interviewed him for GB News talking about that. And the thing is, there's 16 million people in the north of England. He's very affable. People like him. You know, he's got that King of the North moniker. He is not tainted, if you will, by any of the current government's record because he hasn't been involved. So he is, in a way, a clean skin. And I think a lot of people in the north of England and elsewhere would potentially find him very appealing, although he has made comments about we shouldn't be in hock to the bond markets that would suggest that if he became Prime Minister, he might take Labour further to the left, might be more big spending. The markets probably wouldn't like that. So there's all sorts of dangers in this. And, of course, we don't even know if he would be selected, but trouble ahead for Sir Keir Starmer if this proves to be true.
And of course, Reform would mount a mighty challenge in that constituency. They came second last time. Now, Andrew Gwynn won with 50% of the vote, and it's a 13,000 majority, so that ought to be safe. But is any seat safe anymore, Catherine?
I'm not sure that there's anything like a safe seat anymore, much in the way that in the general election of 2024, I remember the last couple of days, I was on the bus with the then Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. They were going to supposedly super safe seats that had majorities of 25,000 that they knew were on the edge, which they then went on to lose. Labour are so unpopular at the moment. They're in such a hole. And, of course, Reform will throw everything.
And, of course, a big risk for Andy Burnham because he'd have to resign as Mayor of Greater Manchester to be the candidate. And what if he then loses?
And
his career is over.
Exactly. So
high stakes for Andy Burnham.
But, Catherine...
A huge risk.
I would imagine, though, that Labour HQ would have the power to stop Burnham being selected to run in that by-election.
I think the National Executive Committee steps in and can impose a shortlist which could exclude Burnham.
Well, I have talked to a number of Labour MPs about this, and depending on who I talk to, I get a different version of what might happen. So it isn't clear. Some people say he's never going to get on the list, and other people say, no, he absolutely will. So... watch this space. Big news if this...
And a figure who will be involved in this selection process will be Morgan McSweeney, who is Starmer's Chief of Staff. He's no fan of Andy Burnham's.
No, indeed.
And West Streeting will be nervous about this because he's limbering up as the favourite to succeed Starmer. Easily the favourite, probably not the favourite if Andy Burnham's in the Commons.
No, probably not. And Andy Burnham... obviously the sort of prince over the water, and without a seat, his threat is totally neutralised, but this could change everything. Wes Streeting, yes, obviously wants the job. Angela Rayner would like the job, but let's not forget, she had to resign over £40,000 of unpaid stamp duty. Some people are rehabilitating her, but will the public really forgive that? She's writing...
And there's an ongoing HMRC inquiry.
Indeed.
She needs to be cleared by that to have any chance of a comeback.
Indeed.
Well, Catherine, thank you very much. We'll continue to update that story if we get any more news. But time is now ticking on.
Your chance to win £85,000 and our biggest cash giveaway, tax-free, of course. Here's how you do it.
There's only 2 weeks left to ensure you're in the draw to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane from Manchester. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. It is real and it does happen to everyday people like myself. And that one text has just made my life 100% better.
But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Up next, 1 in 4 children, can you believe this? 1 in 4 who start reception school are not toilet trained. Here's the question: what on earth are their parents doing?
Well, we'll be going through that and more with Carol Malone and Judita De Silva. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is 11:20. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
We've got the panel back, the broadcasting journalist Carol Malone and Judita De Silva in the studio. Just before we get into...
the really important story of the day.
The really important story. I know you're desperate to talk about the Beckhams. I know, of course you are. But Andy Burnham, there is now a potential way back to Westminster for him.
Yeah.
The Times has broken this story that Andrew Gwynn is going to stand down in this constituency in the north of England, Gorton Denton, 51% share of the vote he had at the last election. Is Andy Burnham potent? Do you think
we all know Burnham has already stood twice to get the leadership, and he didn't get it. And he didn't get it for a very good reason, because he's like Starmer 2.0.
Kept changing his position.
All the time. And he's as dull as Starmer. You know, he's been able to have a decent career as mayor in Manchester, which is fine, but he's still not leadership material. He wasn't then, and he isn't now. And the thing for him, if he gives up the mayoralty of Manchester and goes for this seat and
loses,
the people of Gorton are so fed up with Labour that they vote Reform or whoever, he's nowhere then.
Then his career is finished.
It's
a big risk.
And his career is finished, because he can't then limp back and do another...
Are you a fan of Burnham? Because polls show that he is the one that could shift the dial for Labour.
I think that I don't know about fan, but I do see the value of Burnham. I think that it is a bad move for him to give up the mayoralty because it's too much of a gamble.
Yeah.
What he should be is satisfied with the kind of power broker he could be for Westminster and for the Labour Party from the position he already occupies. Because that whole design on power seems to be an infection that's right through the Labour Party, where everyone thinks they can do it. It's not the same as being mayor. It's very, very different. Keir Starmer has proven that, and the entire chaos in Labour proves that. Operate from the position you have. Use the leverage you have to have influence.
Why isn't he doing that? This is the thing about
Because people love power. It's very seductive.
If he had any nous about him, he'd have said that to the Labour Party, halfway through the first 18 months. He'd have said, let me help you, let me come and do stuff. And he hasn't.
You know why? When enough people keep telling you they like you and you're good and you're popular and the polls are in your favour, that is Kool-Aid. You can't stop drinking. It's seductive.
Miriam, you're a fan, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that. I think he is much more charismatic than Keir Starmer,
well, that's
obviously.
Not difficult. That is not difficult.
He also has much more experience of leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, he actually was not particularly highly rated as a cabinet minister back in the Blair government, but he does have experience, and that's something that Labour are lacking. And I do think you're right, Andrew, that there really isn't any other offer on the front bench that would improve their standing in the polls, not initially at least.
West Streeton would say he would.
The only way Labour are going to get back is with a leader, with a proper leader, someone who has the charisma. And I think he's charisma minus. I don't think he's got any charisma. You know, whatever you hear him saying as mayor is one thing. When you're a leader of a country and you've made a mistake and you've got to account for it, you've got to have a bit about you. And I just don't.
I keep saying West Streeting, Angela Rayner. That's
the dream team.
I will bang my drum. I will shout
She's
that
got
hill.
to get her tax affairs sorted first, because if HMRC conclude that she it wasn't in an inadvertent error in not paying the stamp duty, there's no comeback for her.
But she has bigger problems than that, Piers, as a politician. It's not just that.
What are you suggesting?
Well, I'm just suggesting that there are better people than Angela Rayner.
She's not brilliant. She's not a great thinker, but she is charismatic.
She's not a great intellect.
She's not a great intellect, but she is charismatic.
She's working class, and she carries this narrative that, you know, I've got where I've got to, but even though I came from a council state and
and that narrative is absolutely powerful.
It is.
It's not.
And she's got the common touch. It's not why I say that's why West Streeting has shown himself that you put him in the front lines, you put him on air. He's got that tone of I'll just tell you how it is, and that's so dynamite, especially now. He's very good. That's why when you have him with Angela Rayner, she's the kind of person that you cut her to a core. She feels Labour.
She will run to stop West Streeting. in my view, because she's not an ally, she's not a supporter.
Exactly. Because the weird thing is that all the pieces are on the chessboard. Labour has all the people it needs to be a dynamic party. They won't work together. They won't.
Judah, I was told only this week she would run to, if she thought Streeting's going to get the prize, she will run to stop it.
You know what, Angela Rayner, pick up the phone and call me.
That makes her not fit for office. If she would do that, that makes her not fit.
Well, you have to find her motivation. This is the key. Angela Rayner, pick up the phone and call me. Let's talk. I will tell you what's what.
what?
Angela,
I think
come on,
you do a
GB
brilliant
News.
job,
We would
actually.
love to see you. We'd love to talk to you.
Why don't you
We know
stand
where-
in Andrew
I'm going to be an
Gwynn's seat?
advisor. I'm going to fix Britain.
Right, OK.
You know
Now,
what you all want to talk about, really?
you want to talk about potties.
Never mind.
No, they
never
don't want to
mind.
talk about
They want to talk about the Beckhams.
They want to talk about the
So
Beckhams.
We've just
this
been
is
scrapping
this
about it.
is this day 3 or
Go
day
on,
4 of
let's
this
hear it.
extraordinary family feud?
This is an extraordinary family feud. Today, we're hearing that
Right.
one of the DJs, a guy called Fat Tony, at the wedding, saw this grindy dance that was supposed to be done, and he said, "I've seen it. It actually happened." But apart from all of that, the thing that what do you?
But it was a dance in the evening when the disco had started. It wasn't the first dance of
I know,
the wedding.
and as we know already, and this is what Judith and I have been fighting about, it wasn't actually, when she danced, it wasn't actually the first dance. He'd had a dance with his wife.
With his bride.
But nonetheless, Victoria was trying to take centre stage at a wedding when she should not have even...
But don't mothers always behave badly at weddings?
Thank you.
What?
Don't mothers always behave
Anyone
badly at
who's
weddings?
OK, you know what? People write in and tell the stories of your mother or mother-in-law turning into a crazy person at the wedding. It's rite of passage.
I think there is a bit of that.
No, it's not.
Did your mum behave badly at your wedding?
No, she did not. My mum did not get drunk or headbang at my wedding. Absolutely right.
My mother behaved did something. I'm not going to go into it,
They're going to get drunk.
she-
They're going to dance.
No, she didn't get drunk,
They're
but she
with
said
the bride.
something, and my partner's face was a picture. I said, "It's just my mother. That's what mothers do
Well, my mother
at
was
weddings."
But
terrible.
one warning I would give to Brooklyn Beckham is that, remember, your parents are battle-tested in being public figures, because when you know about celebrity, to be that famous for that long, sustain a
Very
brand,
good point.
it is a 24-hour job.
It
So
is.
accusing them of always operating for the brand, the reason they do, I agree with you, they do, but they have to. That's why being a Beckham is still something valuable that you can cash in on in 2026.
I used to think that boy was a useless, bit of a thick nepo.
Who, Brooklyn?
Brooklyn, yes.
Does not a job, has
And
he?
I think he probably still is. However, when he said
photography,
when he
Andy.
said
Does
what
he?
he said about them, it really struck a chord with me. It sounded like a cry to me. I mean, when he says things like, you know, he said, "My family puts public promotion endorsements above all else. Brand Beckham is everything."
That is the family business, Brooklyn.
Yes,
He's done very well out of it.
No,
He's done very well out of it.
He has done very well out of it. But he suddenly met...
He's whinging
a
like
woman
Prince Harry.
He's in love, and yes, I know she's super rich and all the rest of it.
Billionaires.
But he adores her, and Posh did not. Posh didn't want her around. They call her... They call him the hostage.
Yeah.
Which suggests that she is keeping him hostage. And there's a nickname...
Oh, you
Posh has
can't
a
use
nickname
that.
for her, which
You
we
can't
can't
use that.
relevant.
Do you think there are
Just so that-
parallels here with Prince Harry's
I
split
do.
from his family?
Ironically, in a very sad way, yes, because what I would say, if I could, to Brooklyn is that learn from Harry, because for all that went on, look at the point that Harry has gotten to, where all he wants most is to reconcile with his father, and it's a difficult thing to do.
And his children don't know they can't have parents.
You have publicly humiliated your mother. That's the beginning and end of it.
Yes.
Even though you're hurt and you're lashing out, and children do that,
He
you
hasn't
have
gone on-
publicly humiliated your mum, and you can't heal that wound. And I think
hasn't gone
Victoria
on
is
to
playing a
write
blinder
a book
by
about
keeping quiet.
But it was a six-page.
hasn't
It
gone
was
on
a
to write a
six-page
book.
statement,
It
which
was a
was
six-pager,
toxic.
and he hasn't said anything since. But we all know that Posh and Becks have been putting stuff out for the past year through their friendly journalists about the Brooklyn feud. They have put this out there. They have kept it out there.
Yep.
And that is not fair for him.
But then
He just
also
got sick of
think,
that.
as a mother, you would do anything if you feel my boy is with the wrong woman. You'd fight to the end. So everyone has a perception of Posh. At the end of the day, look at the human being that she is. She's a mother of children.
Yes.
And they have other children that are proving that she's not abusive. He never said they're abusive or they're cruel. You've made decisions that have hurt your son, and he's lashing out. And it's very good that she's keeping quiet. That is the perfect thing to do.
They're not keeping
but at the
quiet,
same
though,
time,
Juditha.
look at like you said, take a step out and look at the dynamics. The Peltz family are questionable. And Brooklyn, when journalists start doing what journalists do, we're going to look into your wife and look into your family, because her father is a person who said he doesn't like the idea of an all-black cast in a Marvel film, even though that's the character that Stan Lee created. And you staged a hostile takeover at Disney to make sure it doesn't do that again. You have a party where Donald Trump and
Everyone knows that, and that's not the
when
story.
you start kicking the tires on, if you want to debate the merits of the kinds of people the Beckhams are, we'll debate the merits on the kinds of people
we have already. That's already out there. That's in the public domain already about Nelson Peltz. Everyone knows that. But I think this story is about, he's talking about manipulation and control. And he says for the first time in his life, he's not being controlled. And I believe anyone who's worked with Posh, knows anything about her, has been around her for all the years that we all have. You know she's controlling and you know she's manipulative. And you can imagine that for Posh, Brand Beckham is everything.
Yeah.
She's actually created that brand because Beck's, as lovely as he is not a business head.
And we've all said that, analysing it over the years, I always give credit to Victoria Beckham for spotting that this is I'm in love with him, but there's something magical about this guy. He became a blueprint, and because of David Beckham, we have Cristiano Ronaldo. To be bigger than football was something that David Beckham designed as a brand, because she was the biggest star, but when he eclipsed her, she was willing to play second fiddle, because she knows as long as I feed into this guy, we're going places.
And even
they go to Spain, they're big. They go to LA, they're big. Wherever they go, they're big, because this woman is an engine that drives Brand Beckham. And kudos to her. I don't condemn her.
What you're describing is a really hard type of person. That's what you're describing.
Yeah,
well,
she'd say that if it was a man.
What Brooklyn is describing.
Thank you.
It's true, though.
No one would say that if she was a man. I do not begrudge this woman being
This is what Brooklyn is describing. That kind of person, that kind of hard, stony person that controls lives. That's what he wants out of.
Okay, so but then now that you are free, Brooklyn, let's sit down and see what happens when you're under umbrella pelts.
And you're
because one day will come where you're in the Harry situation, where you recognise the merit of who your parents were and why they made their decisions, because I hope Brooklyn becomes successful and you realise how hard it is to sustain a brand.
No, I think you're right. I think if the marriage went wrong, he'd go running back to mum and dad. He's got nothing else.
Who knew? There was so much to the story. Finally.
This is Miriam's favourite story of the week, I have to tell you. She's now becoming an expert on the Beckhams.
Family dynamics. It's not about football anymore. It's fine. I can live with it. OK, thanks, guys. Here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories. Donald Trump says things are really calming down as he joined other world leaders at a ceremony for his Board of Peace. Britain will not sign up to the Board of Peace today amid concerns about Russian involvement in the plan. Sir Keir Starmer says the hard yards of bolstering Arctic security can begin as he welcomed Donald Trump dropping tariff threats against European nations opposed to his ambitions to annex Greenland. The US president says the US is exploring a potential deal on Greenland after talks with NATO. The Duke of Sussex has returned to the High Court today to support fellow claimants in their legal action against the publisher of the Daily Mail. Liz Hurley is expected to give evidence today. The alleged unlawful information gathering in the Duke's case relates to 14 articles between 2001 and 2013. A&L has strongly denied the wrongdoing. A social media ban for under-16s has been backed by the House of Lords after mounting pressure from campaigners. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Up next, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Dawn. They're here in the studio. What's coming up?
Are you talking about the Beckhams?
Well,
we just had a fascinating discussion.
They might be mentioned at one point.
Tom will be thrilled.
Possibly not, unless they're going to try and run the country at some point, or take over Greenland, or anything's possible, though.
I hear they are signing up to the Board of Peace.
Right.
They've got enough money to join.
Unlike our Prime Minister, which is an interesting policy position he's in, I think.
Although I can understand why he's trying to steer clear from it for the moment. I mean, this thing was first raised as if it would be the sort of governance board for Gaza.
That's right.
And now it's a sort of parallel organisation to the UN aimed at solving conflicts around the world. The UN. But permanently chaired by Donald Trump himself as an individual.
Not the President of the United States, Donald Trump. That's the scary thing, I think.
So I think there's some big questions that could be raised over this, especially given its membership as things stand.
And also having Tony Blair on it.
Well, that's of the sub-board.
I
So
see.
there's sort of 3 levels to this as it currently stands. Tony Blair is on the Gaza governance bit. But that's only one that's being led by Jared Kushner, and that's sort of a sub-level of the wider board of peace that has been sort of the signing ceremony today.
So the Trump family tentacles are all over this.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, exactly.
Controlling the world.
What does it mean for us is the main question. And where's all the money going? The money
We were asking Catherine Forster if she knew. Is it for reconstruction of Gaza or is it for something else?
It is quite worrying, isn't it? And we're also talking about local politics in the UK as well, with Andy Burnham potentially being back in the House.
Fascinating. Big decision for him.
You say local politics. This could be the replacement of our Prime Minister.
It could.
Pretty big stuff.
It's a big decision.
I meant localised in the UK as opposed to what's happening in the Middle East. Oh my God, it's going to be a long show.
And some Beckham stuff, no doubt.
And probably some Beckhams as well.
Tom.
Oh, a new life form.
He loves his space.
You love a bit of
He loves a
space
bit of
exploration,
space.
don't you, Tom?
Now, up next, the House of Lords have caused an almighty headache for Sir Keir Starmer. Is it going to be another U-turn? It's all about social media. We'll give you the details shortly. This is Britain's Newsroom with GBNews.
Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We have a number of weather warnings in place for the rain. For most of us, a pretty soggy day today and especially windy along some North Sea coasts. Low pressure is the reason, actually starting to pull away this one, but there's more waiting in the wings. These weather fronts draped across some heavy rain for Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and southwest England, where we have yellow rain warnings in place, and an amber warning for parts of eastern Scotland, where the rain really continues to build up through the day today. Over 100 millimetres of rain is possible on the hills, maybe as much as 150 millimetres in some locations. That is likely to cause some flooding, but it's pretty wet across much of northeast England too, pretty cold on these North Sea coasts, even though temperatures are about or maybe a touch above average. Now the rain turns increasingly to snow over the hills in eastern Scotland. Not very pleasant for driving on parts of the A9 in particular. We have that amber warning in place until 6 o'clock this evening. Rain warning also in place throughout this evening for Northern Ireland as the heavy rain continues here. It should start to ease for South Wales and southwest England. Still a few showers coming in here, but still pretty wet for North Wales and the Midlands well through the evening rush hour. And staying very wet in eastern Scotland. Yes, the amber warning runs out. We've still got a yellow warning in place into Friday as we see more and more snow building up over the hills and more rain fed in by that brisk and cold wind coming in from the North Sea. Another band of rain then comes into the southwest as we go through the early hours, in between something a little bit drier for a time. We'll have this drier zone through Friday, but a band of wet weather pushing slowly north across England, Wales. Further heavy showers and gusty winds coming in behind. They may also cause some disruption. There will be, as I say, some drier and brighter spells in between the bands of rain, but basically the next couple of days expect some rain. Temperatures about average, but feeling colder with the strength of the wind. All those weather warnings are on the Met Office website.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's 22 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Prime Minister has been speaking about the tariff threats on the UK from Donald Trump, which we think now have been lifted over Greenland. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
You may have seen, but it is a good thing, that yesterday the threat of tariffs against the United Kingdom was lifted, and now we can start the hard yards of finding a way forward on security in the Arctic, which may seem a long way away, pretty remote, but actually does matter to all of us in terms of the safety and security of our country. And we've got through the last few days with a mix of British pragmatism, common sense, but also that British sense of sticking to our values and our principles.
Well, moving on now.
By the way.
Pardon?
What's the Prime Minister wearing?
Shirt and trousers,
I think
Andrew.
he should wear a suit and tie. Call me old-fashioned.
Why don't you buy it for him? Send it in the post.
Well, he's had help, hasn't he, from Wahid Ali, Lord Ali. He gave him £32,000 worth of
Politicians
suits
have
spectacles.
so much to think about.
Yeah.
You know, getting dressed, what to wear. It's just too much trouble.
No, that's why.
Getting dressed is obviously not too much trouble. It's kind of
for
essential.
blokes is easy. With all respect, it's much more difficult for women.
Well, that is true. I'm working out what's appropriate.
Yeah,
and,
blokes. You just put on a suit and tie.
That's right, and hope that they match. Well, a social media ban for under-16s has been backed by the House of Lords after mounting pressure from campaigners.
So it could well be overturned in the Commons, or will there be a U-turn from the Prime Minister, who has said that what he wants is a consultation on whether there should be an Australian-style ban on social media for the under-16s?
Some people are calling that intervention very cynical because he announced this consultation after it became clear that lots and lots of members of the House of Lords would back this amendment.
Absolutely.
And the government could possibly lose.
And he also knows many, many Labour MPs want a ban. They're there already. They don't need a consultation. And the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, was for a ban weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, we're now joined by the director of the Unplugged Coalition, Jennifer Powers. Jennifer, good morning. What an extraordinary turnaround. 2 years ago, when some people were starting to suggest that social media might be so harmful for children that perhaps they should not be allowed on it, there was a lot of laughter and scoffing and people saying you can't be serious. And yet now it would seem at least the majority of parliamentarians are in favour of restricting children's access. How do you think this has been turned around?
Well, I'd like to say it's because of the huge movement of parents all across the country who've been raising their voices and saying enough monetizing our children's attention and mental health. We think there is a role for the state in terms of, bringing in restrictions, putting the onus back on social media platforms rather than buying the line of the tech industry, which is, use parental controls, isn't it wonderful, you have so much choice, and that you and your child can decide what they want to consume, when it's really not a fair fight between these tech platforms and addictive by design content and our children.
Do you worry, Jennifer, about how it will be, if this goes ahead, and I suspect it is going to happen, how it will be enforced both by the schools and by parents?
Well, you're right. I mean, there's quite a lot of moving parts here. The government has said they will consult on a mandatory restrictions of smartphones in schools. Parents really calling out for on-site restrictions because that keeps their child safe, not just bell to bell, but it really changes the culture around when children are given smartphones. But the detail on that remains to be seen. With regard to the restrictions on social media, I think it's really interesting how, as you mentioned, the Prime Minister has really done a U-turn on that. And I think that's down to the strength of feeling, not just across the House, but in his own party. And we see, dozens and dozens of backbenchers and even ministers and cabinet ministers saying to him behind the scenes and telling the whips, like, we are not happy. Now, some of them may have been bought off with this consultation that was launched, but, parents are absolutely calling out for action, and they don't want to wait another 6 months. They don't want this kicked down the road. We know what needs doing. We have a bill going through Parliament now that can really take a massive step forward. And so, what parents want to see is they want to see either the Nash Amendment approved in the Commons, or they want to see a government amendment that is just as robust.
What's been very interesting about this debate, Jennifer, is that people seem to treat tech differently that they might treat another product or intervention. So, for example, Hilary Cass, Baroness Cass, in the Lords last night said that when it comes to protecting children, if we think they're in danger, we should act first and discuss it later. And that's certainly what we would do if a new drug was introduced into the market, let's say, and suddenly children began falling ill, or suddenly children start dying in road accidents. We'd look at safety on the roads. Why have we acted so differently with tech, and actually for 10 years now just allowed it to completely transform childhood, seen the terrible results, but said, we can't do anything because it might not work, or we can't do anything because of all these other reasons? Why have we treated it so differently?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, I give talks to parents at schools all across the against a brick wall 10,000 times to make sure the airbags inflate properly before it's allowed on the road. The pram that you put your baby in when you bring him or her home from the hospital has had to meet really strict safety standards. But there's been no tests up to prove the safety of these devices or of these platforms. They've just been made available and pushed onto all of us, but in particular to our children. So why is that? Well, I think it's because this algorithmically driven, persuasive tech world has really only been around for 14 years. Yes, we've had email since the 90s, we've had iPhones since 2007, but until the algorithms came in and until we had 4G rollout in this country in 2012, we didn't have the access. And so the human mind just really struggles to get its head around what is risk in the online world. It's just not something that any of us can really understand. And so we shrug our shoulders, we go on, we let our kids go on. And oftentimes, even when our children encounter harm online, bullying, or they see graphic, horrific content, we just shrug and go, oh, what can we do? We can't put the genie back in the bottle. James is already on TikTok, or I already gave Imogen a smartphone. And they don't necessarily stop and think, wait, if this was something happening in real life, I would intervene as a parent. But because it's happening online, I'll just sort of, shrug. So I think this is a fantastic opportunity for the government to really move child protection and safeguarding forward. And I just really urge the Prime Minister to really deliver this for parents and for kids.
All right. OK, Jennifer, thank you so much. That's Jennifer Parrish from the Unplugged Coalition. Now, up next, the number of people cheating on their driving tests has surged by 50%, and you simply won't believe how some of them are doing it. But first, we're going to give you some holiday sun forecasts.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Much of Europe at the moment looking as unsettled as the UK. Spells of heavy rain for Greece, windy in Iberia, and those strong winds also containing cold air. So they're going to bring showers and longer spells of rain to Portugal in particular during Friday, with some hill and mountain snow as a consequence. Rain easing off for a time across Italy, but further spells of wet weather expected into the weekend, and we've got a lot of showers, heavy downpours throughout much of Greece. Fresh snow, though, for the Alps.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word. So they've been cheating a lot in our driving tests. 50% increase in Scotland, England and Wales last year. We're joined now by the Chief Executive of the Drivers Instructors Association, Carly Brookwood. Carly, both Mira and I were pretty stunned reading these figures. It's a lucrative business, apparently, to impersonate someone in a driving test. You can get up to £2,000 for it.
Yeah, I think the cheaters and the impersonators who offer these shortcuts are well aware that the reward it outweighs the risk for them, and they're not just individuals who are doing this. They may be offering cheats and unethical things in other areas of life. So I'm not so sure we should be concerned with just how they're going to be penalised. I think we need to get pupils to think about the penalties for them for doing something illegal like this as well.
So are you implying that although the number of people caught trying to do this has gone up by 47% in a year, there are actually many, many people who are doing this and not being caught?
I mean, that's probably right. I mean, they are ramping up their detection capability at the Driving and Vehicle Standards Agency, which is why these figures have come to light of increasing. There's more detection and enforcement going on. But we need to get more messages out there to pupils to not even think about using a service like this and what are the consequences for them, never mind the people they're paying.
And Carly, what are the consequences if you're caught cheating? If you are the driver who's cheated, what is the consequence?
Well, it's an illegal act that you're engaging with. It's fraud. So there could be a criminal investigation of you. That could range to some kind of heavy fine or even prison sentences. And there certainly have been cases of that for some of the people impersonating people. But they're doing it on a grand scale. They're doing hundreds and hundreds of tests doing this. So one would argue the detection capability perhaps isn't as good as it should be. But for the pupil, they could face being banned from going to the test centre and taking a test, which is self-defeating, trying to cheat in the first place.
Now, one of the detection techniques you're using, you're demanding to see people's face. Fair enough, perhaps, and you compare it to the driving licence. But do you have an issue then if the person who's taking the test is wearing a veil, for instance?
That could be an area where the very human individuals who are in test centres who are having to face somebody head on when they're challenging them, that could be an area of sensitivity for staff in test centres, particularly theory test centres, because that's what you're talking about there, checking under the veil to make sure there's not a cheat device like a Bluetooth under there. So yeah, I'm sure there is a sensitivity of staff there that how far do I push this without offending somebody? And I suspect there is training that enables them to do that, but I would want to know more flesh on the bones of how comfortable do staff feel about challenging.
And the Bluetooth devices are presumably so people can cheat on the theory test.
Yes, so they can be fed answers to the theory test. And
amazing, isn't it?
As technology gets more advanced, i.e. Google Glasses, which I am not wearing today, you've got to be watching out for those kind of things as well.
Maybe they'll have to rethink the whole thing. Well, Carly, thank you so much for joining us. Fascinating story.
And motto is just take your own driving test. Don't get somebody else to do it, because you could get a criminal record. And also, you're not safe to drive on the road necessarily.
No, absolutely.
You're declaring yourself unfit by cheating in any way. So you're unfit to drive. Don't send somebody else to do it because you're the one that's going to be on the road.
That's true.
Very good advice.
Yourself as well as everybody else.
That is Carly Brookwood, who is the Chief Executive of the Driving Instructors Association. Oh, you'd never have thought it, would you?
I know. I wouldn't
Bluetooth
even
device
thought that
to
you could cheat. Absolutely.
I know.
Absolutely.
Did you pass your first time?
Not my practical test, no. I did the theory test.
I'm so old, I just did one test, but first I passed second time.
Did your car have reverse gear?
It was
Bobbing Reliant.
Exactly. It was a penny farthing, actually.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're qualified to drive that. Well, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up next, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Dawn.
See?
Rookies, amateurs, I passed first time, although it was 10 years after I really should have taken it.
And I was on a penny farthing. I'm the same age as Andrew, so...
Well, we are looking closely at what's going on in Greater Manchester. Could we really be seeing a by-election? Could Andy Burnham return to Parliament and oust Keir Starmer?
Or could Reform win that by-election? It was quite close last time. Find out more. And we've also got alien life.
We absolutely do. The most surprising discovery in the United Kingdom. After your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Another day with spells of rain across many parts of the UK. Showery, so on and off for many, but more prolonged for parts of eastern Scotland, where there is a warning running through till the end of Friday because of the risk of significant accumulation, 60 millimetres widely for eastern Scotland, 120 over the hills. There'll be some snow over the hill and mountain tops as well, increasingly so during the next couple of days as colder winds arrive. But for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We've got these outbreaks of rain on and off, heavy showers towards the south and southwest in particular. Some drier interludes, feeling unpleasant all in all as those showers set in. Very few places staying dry, although the far north of Scotland likely to be a little drier, albeit cloudy with a few light showers here and there. But it's across eastern Scotland where we do have that warning because of the risk of prolonged rain leading to flooding by the end of Friday. Heavy rain moving through Glasgow as well at this time of the day. The rain on and off further south across Scotland. Northern Ireland, England, Wales seeing showery outbreaks, something a little drier